Hi friends, this is the second lecture in the English lecture video series for NABARD Grade A and Grade B 2017. So in this lecture we'll be starting with the first topic of English, that is the essay. So in the previous lecture what all we had discussed? First of all we had discussed the pattern for phase 2 of NABARD examination. So I had told you that as far as the phase 2 is concerned, the first paper is on general English worth 100 marks and 90 minutes duration or 1.5 hour. The second paper is a combined paper for ESI and ARD, that is economics and social issues and agriculture and rural development, again 100 marks, 90 minutes duration. If you have applied for the generalist posts, if you are eligible for the specialist posts, this will be a paper related to your discipline. Then we had also discussed the cutoff marks for English paper in phase 2 for last year 2016. Then we had discussed the importance of English paper in terms of the potential marks and in terms of the effort required, and we had discussed that how with the least amount of effort you can score the maximum marks in English as compared to your paper 2. Then from the notification I had extracted some information that what exactly is NABARD looking for in a candidate while checking the English paper. So we had seen that the analytical and the writing ability of the candidate is being assessed, and it is not a check of your basic knowledge. Then as far as the paper of 2016 is concerned, we had seen that essay was asked, the précis was asked, reading comprehension was asked, and letter writing was asked in this paper. And then depending and then again based on the notification, we had seen the topics that we have to prepare. And then we had seen that how shall we be covering all the topics in this video series. Now what we'll be doing in this lecture is that we'll be starting with the essay, that what is an essay. Then we'll be talking about the structure of an essay, very important. This lecture is very important because we are starting with the essay part, and the last time most of you might have written an essay must be in school or in college. So please pay attention to this lecture. We'll be discussing that what is an essay, how do we define an essay, what all you have to write in an essay, what is the structure of an essay, right? Then how to begin. Once a topic is given to you, then a lot of points straight away come to your mind, but you don't know. Generally what we feel the problem is that we don't know that how to begin the essay, because so many points come rushing to our mind, we don't know how to start. Now this is a framework that I have made, and this will come to the rescue while answering this question, how to begin. So we'll be talking about this WWHCS framework also. We'll be taking examples as well. So let's start. Now if you see the definition of an essay, what we find is that an essay is a composition made up of several paragraphs. Fine. This point is very important. Each of these paragraphs has a collection of connected sentences on a given topic. This point is extremely important, and this point is the core of any essay, or the foundation or the basic thing to be kept in mind while writing an essay. The point is that once you are writing an essay, we all know that you have to start with an introduction, then you have to write the body, and then you have to end with the conclusion. Now the body can have multiple paragraphs. Let's say there are 3 paragraphs in the body, then there is 1 paragraph on introduction and there is 1 paragraph on conclusion. Now what do I mean when I say that each of these paragraphs has a collection of connected sentences? It means that the various paragraphs, they should have a logical flow. They should be interconnected, and the essay should be an organic whole. That is, once you have written an introduction, automatically the first paragraph of the body should be linked to the last word of the last sentence of the introduction. It should not be haywire, that your introduction is ending and then your body is beginning or starting, and there is no organic linkage between the introduction and the body, and it feels like the body has come out of nowhere. I hope you are getting the point. That once you have started with the introduction and you are about to write the first line of the body and you are finished with the last line of the introduction, there should be a logical connection between these two. The examiner should feel that okay, while reading the first line of the body, that yes, this has automatically come from the last line of the introduction and it is logically connected to the introduction. So overall your essay should be a single overall one organic whole. It should not be that your introduction is going one way, your first paragraph of the body is going the other way, then your conclusion is again going some other way. It should all be connected. There should be connections between these three things: introduction, body and conclusion, and there should be a very smooth and logical flow between the different paragraphs. We'll see all these things with the help of examples as well when we'll be talking about the assignment. We'll be taking good essays and bad essays, and we'll be exemplifying these things, that how the connections are formed, how the logical flow is maintained while talking about those essays as well. Now when we come to the structure of an essay, we all know that the basic structure of an essay is the introduction, or we can also call it the beginning. Right, then there is the body, we can also call it the middle of an essay, and then there is the conclusion or the ending. We all know this. There is an introduction or the beginning of the essay, then there is the body, the main body, which is called the middle, and there is the conclusion or the ending. Now depending on the word limit, can be anywhere between 200 to 400 words. Depending on the word limit, your length of the body or the number of paragraphs in the body will change. Right, so if it is say an essay of just 200 words, maybe your body will have two very short paragraphs. If the essay is of 400 words, 500 words, then maybe your body will have 4 to 5 paragraphs, medium sized paragraphs. Now when you are given a particular topic, the introduction and the conclusion is the part in which aspirants face the maximum amount of difficulty. Introduction and conclusion are such parts or such subparts of the overall essay where it becomes difficult to write a good introduction, and it becomes difficult to write a good conclusion, and becomes difficult to logically connect the introduction and conclusion with the body of the essay. So what to do? If introduction and conclusion are the most difficult parts, then what to do? How to solve this problem? Just one simple word: you have to brainstorm and collect the points. Whenever you are given a topic, you just brainstorm. Just give it a minute, give 5-10 minutes, think about the topic and brainstorm and collect points. Easier said than done, right? It is so easy to say that you have to brainstorm and you collect the points, but when you start implementing this, it becomes difficult. Why does it become difficult? Because the points that you get out of your brainstorming session have to be arranged in a logical manner also. They have to be coherent also, and there has to be interlinkages between the different points as well. So although you may collect 50 points, 100 points after brainstorming, but those points have to be connected, or they have to be placed in a logical manner so that your overall essay becomes one organic whole. Let us understand this thing with the help of an example. Let's say the topic that you have to write an essay on is this: should India have a universal basic income? Should India have universal basic income? I hope you all know something about universal basic income. There was a complete chapter on UBI in this year's economic survey of 2016-17. So when you are given this topic, your mind or your brain starts working, and there are so many points that directly or straight away come to your brain, and some of these points can be like this: that UBI is a fixed income that the government shall transfer to every citizen of a nation irrespective of his or her socio-economic status. So irrespective of the fact that he is above poverty line or below poverty line, or physically challenged, or a woman or a girl, or of any age, the government shall transfer unconditionally some amount of money to his or her bank account. It would cost the exchequer 4 to 5% of GDP. It would replace the plethora of existing schemes. So whatever schemes are running now, it will replace all those schemes, and it will just give a certain amount of cash amount to the account of every person, and so no other scheme will be required. The person is free to spend the money the way he or she wants to. Then cash, if such a scheme is given or UBI is implemented, then cash can also be spent on sin goods or temptation goods like liquor, cigarettes and all. It can lead to people becoming lazy because they know that even if they don't work, they'll get a certain amount in their account. Then how can the existing schemes be pulled back all of a sudden? So many schemes are running for the past so many years, then how can the politicians or how can the political dispensation straight away go and say one day that all these schemes are being pulled back and we'll be depositing a certain amount of money in the account? How can this be possible? So does India have the fiscal capacity to implement UBI? Can we afford to spend 4 to 5% of GDP on a concept such as UBI? Isn't it undesirable to transfer a fixed amount of money to all, including the rich? So if there is no condition, if this is a universal concept, then the rich people will also get a fixed amount of money in their account. Is it justified? Is it desirable? Etc. etc. So I have been given just this topic and my mind has started working, my brain has started working and given me all these points. And so many other points as well which I have not written. So many points have come to my mind and I have just jotted them down. So this is the result of brainstorming. But the problem now which you will encounter is that these points are fine, but these points have to be arranged. These points have to be written in a logical manner with logical interconnections. Right? These points have to be given a certain structure or a certain framework. Where to begin with? Should I begin with that the concept of UBI has certain problems, that the people might become lazy, that we don't have the fiscal space to implement it? Or should I begin with the definition of UBI, that it is a fixed income? What should I do? So brainstorming will solve just one problem, that it will give you a whole lot of points. But the next step is that after extracting all those points or after jotting down all those points, you have to arrange those points in a proper structure or a proper framework which goes by introduction, body and conclusion. How to do that? Let's see. So the question now that we are trying to address is that what to do now with all these points. Try to remember what we have seen in the first or second slide, that these words are important: logical sequence, organic whole, interconnection, that all your points have to be written in a logical sequence. There should be interconnection between the points and your essay should be one organic whole. How to do that? This framework will help you. This framework will help you. Now what is this framework? The first W stands for why, the second W stands for what, H stands for how, C stands for challenges, and S stands for solutions. For any topic under the sun, any topic, take any topic under the sun, these are the 5 dimensions that each of your point will fit into. You may extract 50 points, 100 points, 1000 points on a particular topic. All those 1000 points can be categorized into these 5 basic dimensions. How? Let's see. Let us take the same example. Should India have universal basic income? This was the first point. UBI is a fixed income that the government shall transfer to every citizen of a nation irrespective of his or her socioeconomic status. This is nothing but what is UBI? Right, this is the answer to this question. What is UBI? It would cost the exchequer 4 to 5% of GDP. It is again related to what and how of UBI. That how will it be implemented? What is UBI? Right, so while you are defining UBI, this point will automatically flow that it will cost the exchequer 4 to 5% of GDP. It would replace the plethora of existing schemes. It is straight away an answer to how. That how will UBI be implemented? It will be implemented by replacing the existing schemes. And instead of those schemes, you will be giving a fixed amount irrespective of the socioeconomic status of the citizen. Then the next point, the beneficiary can spend the money the way he or she wants to. It is again an answer to how. That how will it be implemented? It will be implemented by giving out a cash transfer to the people, and the beneficiary can spend, or the people can spend the money the way he or she wants to. Then the cash can be spent on temptation goods. It is nothing but challenges of UBI, or the negatives of UBI, or the bottlenecks in the implementation of UBI, the hurdles in the implementation of UBI. That if you implement UBI, maybe one of the challenge can be that cash can be spent on temptation goods. It can lead to people becoming lazy. It is again a challenge. How can the existing schemes be pulled back all of a sudden? Again a challenge. How can you pull back the existing schemes all of a sudden? It is again a challenge. India does not have the fiscal capacity to implement UBI. It is again a challenge. Isn't it undesirable to transfer a fixed amount of money to all, including the rich? Again a challenge. So as you can see that all the points that we had come out after the brainstorming have been put into this framework. Some points are in the what part, some points are in the how part, some points are related to the challenges part, some points can be written in the why part also. Why part, that why UBI, why do we need UBI? The answer to it can be that because there are inclusion and exclusion errors. that while implementing the scheme, some deserving people are left out of the schemes and some undeserving people are included they are included in the scheme, right? So that can be the why of UBI, that there are leakages, there is corruption, there is so much of corruption involved, there is so much of human interference involved, there are so many of middlemen involved. So we don't want those middlemen, we want the cash to be directly transferred to the beneficiary's account. So this can be the why of UBI. So all the points that come to your mind after brainstorming on a particular topic fit into a framework, and this framework is nothing but the WWHCS framework. Why is this framework important? This framework is important because it will help you to arrange all the points after brainstorming into just 5 categories: first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and these 5 categories can now be used to write the introduction, body and conclusion. This is the main point. So depending on the topic, maybe the why part can come in the introduction, the what part or the how part can come in the body, the challenges can come in the body second paragraph, the challenges part 2 can come in the body third paragraph, and maybe the solutions can come in the conclusion. So this is how this framework will help you in arranging the points that you have brainstormed, that you have arrived at after brainstorming, into a particular framework, and that framework can then be translated into the introduction, body and conclusion. So this is the second lecture of English. In the next lecture we'll be talking about, the lecture 3, we'll be continuing with the essay part, and we'll be taking some more examples, and we'll be moving forward with the styles of introduction and the styles of conclusion. We'll be taking many examples. Thank you.